to tell you, Dr. Man, I'm honored to be a part of this. But once we set up base camp, secure those modules, my work's done here. I'm going home. You have attachments. And even without a family, I can promise you that yearning to be with other people is powerful. That emotion is at the foundation what makes us human. It's not to be taken lightly. You know why we couldn't just send machines on these missions, don't you, Cooper? A machine doesn't improvise well because you can't program a fear of death. Our survival instinct is our single greatest source of inspiration. Take you, for example. A father with a survival instinct that extends to your kids. What does research tell us is the last thing you're gonna see before you die? Your children, their faces. At the moment of death, your mind's gonna push a little bit harder to survive. For them.
Parth Marathe, hello, co-host of the podcast, Craft Services, the podcast.
This is all true information, but I want some information from you, Trent.
What's that?
What if you want me to know, you want to know what I want to ask you?
Yeah, what do you want to ask me?
This may come as a shock, but I come to this podcast, I get ready to record, and I just start wondering,
You make all those noises, and then
yeah, on air, and then I'm like, what's in little Trenty baby's stomach? What's he been eating? And I think in like that accent, you know.
Yeah, you say, what is my good friend Trent digesting currently?
I wouldn't say good friend. I wouldn't put it that way. But co-host, definitely.
So thanks for asking. I just had a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios.
That sounds, exotic, extravagant.
Yeah, no, not too much to say. Definitely one of my top 3 favorite cereals alongside... All right, Parth, we're going to try to make this interesting. If you could only have 3 cereals for the rest of your life, what would they be? Mine are Honey Nut Cheerios, Frosted Mini Wheats, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Final answer. You.
Okay, I'm going to go with Honey Nut Cheerios, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Whoa, we have a lot in common.
Either Fruit Loops or Apple Jacks.
I think the rule is you need to have, 2 that are, dependable that you could, have in the morning, and then you need a treat cereal. Because if you had to go the rest of your life without a sugary cereal, you'd want to die.
Here's the thing, is that I would need Honey Nut Cheerios because that's a pretty baseline, not super sweet. It's, pretty
It's
average.
sweet enough,
It's nothing.
totally.
It's not normal
But
Cheerios.
on the box, it still claims that it's, heart healthy, and I don't know how believable that is, but I'm willing to turn a blind eye.
In a previous episode, you said that Raisin Bran was the most boring cereal, and I have to disagree because I think normal Cheerios are the most boring cereal because they're nothing. But Honey Nut Cheerios, they're acceptable. And then Cinnamon Toast Crunch because it's really fun, but you can't have it too many days in a row without feeling like a monster and a threat to society.
Were you allowed sugary cereal as a child?
Not really. I mean, not allowed. The thing is, my parents were like, well, I mean, you can't have that all the time. We can buy it, but you can't have it every day. Yeah. And so then I'd just be like, well, then I don't really want it because then I'll just want to eat it.
The willpower to not, sneak into the pantry in the middle of the night.
Yeah, little 5-year-old Parth didn't have that kind of impulse control, but 20-year-old Parth, he's a new man. Mm-hmm. He's literally a man now. And and
for legal reasons, you're a man, but
yeah, I can be sent off into war, but I can't drink, and I never have. But right, Trent?
Yeah, sure. Parth, I can attest. You've never consumed alcohol in any of its forms, liquid, solid, gaseous states.
In all forms.
And Parth, believe it or not, you're a really fun guy to hang out with in college, even though you don't.
And I don't hang around anybody that does that kind of stuff. Is what I think makes me pretty great.
Oh, you mean bad? You mean bad influences?
Yeah,
Parth,
people.
Imagine the quality of the pod if alcohol were involved. Do you think it would crash and burn, or do you think we would just be more entertaining to listen to?
So 20-year-old Parth has more impulse control, and so now every now and then we get Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Mm-hmm. But I think Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks are like a middle ground where they're not Cheerios, but they're not so whatever. So I feel like sometimes I could have those. Because I think as a kid, I would get Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks more often than other cereals because they were like a compromise. They were an acceptable enemy to my parents.
I think Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks are a pretty small percentage of like real food, especially with like the color that both of those things are.
You know what I can't abide?
What's that?
I couldn't. I don't remember if this was actually a thing, but you remember there would be like little like chocolate chip cookie crisps or whatever. I can't abide that as a cereal. I can't. That's just candy. That's just. That's not cereal.
I totally agree with you, and especially the fact that it's a miniature cookie doesn't make like it's hard to defend it. But I think Fruity Pebbles falls into the same boat. Honestly, like so does Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm not happy about it either.
I guess I can concede that. It just in my head, it's like I could maybe every now and then give my future potential kid that also will be not interested in drugs or alcohol, which I guess is also a drug, but I could see giving my kid some Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
And then like looking at your reflection.
And being like, I'm a good dad, or I'm an okay dad.
Maybe you could give him.
I'm not there much.
Maybe give it.
The divorce settlement cost a lot, but I don't think I could really give him Cocoa Crisps. What the fuck is it called?
Yeah, Cocoa Crisps. And
I could not do that.
You don't remember the Cocoa Crisp commercials? They had a mascot, and he was like a big wolf, and he ran around with a spoon. I guess every cereal kind of has. It's like the only food group that's like really big on mascots. Like every noteworthy cereal, even fucking Honey Nut Cheerios.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 breakfast cereal mascots.
Wait, is it the heart?
No, it's the bee. What?
Oh fuck yeah, you're right. No, because there's like the heart. It's like it's good for your heart, and I'm like I don't buy that. No. But okay.
Wait, Parth, what have you?
It's tasty.
What have you eaten? This cereal discourse has really gotten out of hand.
Yeah, we're recording as of recording right now. It's 1:45 p.m. I had a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Was peanut butter and jellies like the cornerstone of your elementary school brown bag diet?
No. I would have. My mom would give me Indian food, so I would have parathas. I would have paratha like when she would give me food. But as I got older, probably by like 5th grade, I would just buy
school lunch. The cafeteria ladies were always so charming.
Maybe to you. I know how involved you are with older women.
It went in phases. There was an Uncrustables time, and then when you're a kid and you have peanut butter and jelly every day for like 3 months, and then after the 3rd month, you're like, okay, now this dish repulses me, and then you transition to bagels with butter, and then you go bagels with cream cheese, and then you're introduced to lunch meat, and that's when things get really interesting. Turkey for a month, roast beef for a month, little roasted chicken for a month. Anything is possible. But then when you reach middle school and you have to start making your own lunch, your standards really start to go down quick.
Well, you just recently said that anything is possible, and that's kind of how I felt about our main thing of the day. So our main movie? Yeah, I'm always there, coming in clutch with the transitions.
After 8.5 minutes, you're swooping in with this timely transition.
Trent, that's enough talking. Let's cut to the intro.
So is this going to be one of the pods we do shirtless? Welcome back to Craft Services, our show, where we talk about...
Our podcast.
Yep, we have one, a podcast, where we talk about the movies. Each week... we interview someone who, worked on a film. And then the next week, Parth and I, and sometimes a special guest, sit down, shoot the shit, and discuss it.
Wait, Trent, we have a special guest today?
Nope. This is one of those times where it's... Parth, we only have so many friends who are willing to come on the show. And one of these days...
Yeah, we only have so many friends.
Yeah, period. I'm glad we don't have a format where we actually need... a special guest every week, because
No, it would be madness, and this podcast would go behind schedule all the time.
Because simply, we would either have to change the format, which would just be insulting to the fans at home, or we would have to go through great inconvenience to go out into the world and try to like meet new people who are like interested in chatting with us and like willing to have it recorded, and
that's out of the question.
Like
Meeting new people.
Look at us. Like, I mean, we're lucky to have the few associates that we've
accumulated over the years.
That we've catfished and, haven't figured out that it's just all one big elaborate podcast revolving lie. Because at the end of the day, it's not the friends who will be there, because friends die. But the podcast lives forever.
Trent, you told me off camera that you had something you needed to get to, something you need to say about we're talking about Interstellar this week. Side note, listen to our interview with assistant editor John Lee. We uploaded that last week.
He was super nice. And
yeah,
he likes Parth's tweets sometimes, which makes him
and he replies sometimes.
Extra nice. But the thing I wanted to ask you is, what text did I send you at 3:30 a.m. last night, and what did you respond to that text?
I'm opening up my phone. So, well, let me give some context.
Please.
You texted me at 12 a.m.
Midnight.
At midnight. And I'll try my best Bobby De Niro, because it was his birthday the day before, as of time recording.
I'm so happy you're gonna do this.
What's the fucking matter with you? What is the fucking matter with you? What are you, stupid or something? Tommy, I'm kidding with you. What the fuck are you doing? What are you, a fucking sick maniac?
He shoots him in the foot, he tells him to go fuck himself. You gonna let him get away with that? You gonna let this fucking punk get away with that? What's the matter? What's the world coming to?
What the fucking world is coming to? How do you like that? How's that, all right?
What's the fucking matter with you? What is the fucking matter with you? What are you, stupid or what? No, Tommy, I'm kidding with you. What the fuck are you doing? Are you a fucking sick maniac?
I don't know if you're kidding. What do you mean you're kidding? You're breaking my fucking balls?
I'm fucking kidding with you. You fucking shoot the guy?
He's dead. Good shot. What do you want from me? Good shot.
So that's the scene in Goodfellas where Joe Pesci shoots Spider, and 2 days ago was Robert De Niro's birthday, and so I sent that to Parth, who's never seen Goodfellas all the way through.
No, I've seen about 2/3. And
your response. Oh wait, we'll continue.
I responded with a photo of me.
Oh wow! You're getting a lot of backstory.
Yeah, yeah, a photo of me from 5 years ago that my friend Aiden had sent to me, of me with in really bright lighting, and I think the phone had the camera had flash on, and so I look really white.
Yes,
in this photo.
the flash was reflecting off your supple brown skin, and for whatever reason,
when we do the Instagram post, should I put this up?
Sure.
Should I be like, here as mentioned in the episode?
Absolutely, yeah. White Parth, well, Caucasian Parth, to be respectful.
Right. So Trent responds with white Parth ? And I respond, I know. And he goes, have you been white this whole time? And I say, it's shocking. And then I send the eyes emoji, the looking left to right type eyes,
which are often used in a sort of sexual or sensual context, but in this it was different. It was a friendly eyes, I think.
How do you know it was different, Trent?
We'll continue.
So then we don't talk because it's midnight after that, and then at 3:18 a.m. you send me wow, and in the same text you press enter and then go, so I watched Interstellar.
I did a new paragraph to add to the drama. And then you responded with just one word at
so
at 4:23.
At 4:26. Yeah. No, 4:26 a.m. Trent, come on, got to get these time codes right. At 4:26 a.m., I send my big long response to his, beautiful text. At 4:26 a.m., I respond with, yeah.
And I happened to be awake when I received this, and I rolled over in bed. I thought, what human being is functioning at this ungodly hour? And I look over, it was Parth.
And when I woke, when I woke up, I saw, because Trent for some reason has his read receipts on.
Do I? Wow, I didn't even know that.
No, you do. Which I always wonder, because every now and then I'll be like, hey Trent, are you good at this time to record? And I can see that you've seen the text. And then I'll be like, why does he have his read receipts on if he's also going to purposefully avoid me? So that's
But the reason I've been purposely ignoring you is because I thought my read receipts have been off for the past several years. So you
Right.
can imagine all of the wow.
wow. This is on air. This is
Breaking
it's awkward
news:
for you, isn't it?
Trent's a bad friend and has difficulty scheduling sometimes.
So, so then I wake up and I can see that I sent that text at 4:26 and you saw it at 4:27. It says read at 4:27. I'm like, wow, he was up, and decided not to respond, which is fine because I'd literally just gotten up for some reason in the middle of the night.
Was it like to pee
looked
or
at
a
my
glass
phone,
of
saw
water?
the text. No, I just woke up randomly,
Okay.
and then I think instinctively I reached for my phone to see what time it was, even though I have an alarm clock. Saw the text, responded with yeah, because I figured, hey, I saw the text, I should respond.
Mm-hmm. Is that just your rule of friendship? And I
try. You know what happens when I see somebody's texted me? I try to respond, and I know that's not how some people operate, but that's okay.
So I thought
Everybody's different.
I thought there's no need to respond because when I felt my phone ring, I thought there was going to be a very detailed like critique or analysis or of the film, or being like, I'm so glad you liked it, excited to chat tomorrow. And I thought, well, Parth's brain is clearly operating somewhere between 5 and 10% of its full functionality. And there's no point in trying to continue on this conversation any longer. Because I thought that it was one of those things where if I asked you about it this morning, be like, hey, remember where I texted you last night? It would, being that it required like such little mental capacity to send me the word yeah, that I thought you did this in a subconscious state. I thought you dream texted me. Only because
I remember sending something. I didn't remember what. I remember sending something short, but I didn't remember what it was.
And I know that this has gotten out of hand, but I'm not crazy about the dream text because, long story short, I went to a party in high school and I arranged my and there
Trent was cool in high school. People liked Trent in high school. Okay.
And there was going to be some underage drinking going on, and so I needed to arrange my sister to pick me up rather than my parents, so we could pull off the perfect crime. And so the clock strikes 11, Trent's sophomore year curfew, and I call my sister and I say, come pick us up. And she answers the phone and she says, hey, Trent, I can't pick you up. I broke both my legs. And I was, a little bit impaired. And so I thought, okay, that's cool. And then, we went from there. And then the next morning I saw my sister, legs intact. And I said, yo, did you just not want to drive us home? And she said, no, I was having a dream where I broke both my legs, and then I woke up to your phone call, thought both my legs were still broken, and then reported the facts. Isn't that crazy?
That's a good story, Trent.
Thanks. Now that we've got that housekeeping
You know
out
what
of
else
the
is
way,
a good story?
the 3-hour film by the 3-hour Christopher Nolan film, Interstellar.
Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
We're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it.
All right, Parth, do you want to give the synopsis?
Thanks, Trent. Sure. A team of explorers travel through a wormhole in space in an attempt to ensure humanity's survival.
Parth and I have been discussing the possibility of changing the synopsis section to us trying to describe the film in 10 words, but I looked at the synopsis this morning and I thought, this isn't going to be my first attempt. It's too long, it's too complicated. Let's let IMDb do some of the heavy lifting.
I don't think a Christopher Nolan film is the one where we're going to try to, let's summarize this ourselves.
Do we want to try? Oh, let me try really quick.
You try, 10 words or less. Were you going to say Macaulay Culkin?
No. I was. My first 2 words were going to be Matthew McConaughey, but I think for the sake of this exercise, I can start with McConaughey and everyone can understand what's happening. McConaughey goes into black hole to save humanity and daughter. 10 words. Okay. I mean, that's a really, I don't know, peripheral description because there's a lot
Sure.
a lot more thematically happening here. But tell me about the. Oh wait, it's my responsibility to tell you about the box office and budget. Well, good question, Parth. The budget is $165 million, and the box office is $702 million.
It's made a pretty penny.
Wait.
Huh? Also,
Wait, while I have you here, where does this fall in terms of Nolan's like box office draws?
it's pretty big. I mean, his biggest grossing movie is still The Dark Knight Rises.
Did that
followed
break?
by The Dark Knight.
Did that break $1 billion?
Yeah. I mean, The Dark Knight was, I think, the first superhero film to break $1 billion. It was one of a few films to. I mean, now Marvel movies break $1 billion, no sweat.
Yeah.
But that was a big deal when The Dark Knight broke that, and then Dark Knight Rises made even more than The Dark Knight. So those two are his biggest.
I'm sure. Did Inception not make more money than this?
No, it did. It did.
Okay.
So those two are his biggest. Then Inception made a little over $800 million, I believe. Then I think this is fourth.
And what do you think is immediately following this, just for conversation's sake?
Following this is probably Dunkirk, which I think made 500-ish million.
Oh, and Tenet's probably low on this list.
Tenet is kind of low on this list. It made about $300 million. So
Thanks,
it
Warner.
made-
Thanks, Warner Media.
Yeah. So after Dunkirk comes probably Batman Begins, and after that probably comes Tenet, and then after that, all of his movies were like much smaller budgets.
Yes.
So,
All right.
you know,
You want to give the production history?
sure. So the premise for Interstellar was conceived by producer Linda Obst and theoretical physicist Kip Thorne, who collaborated on the 1997 film Contact. This garnered the interest of Steven Spielberg, and the film began development in June 26th when Spielberg and Paramount Pictures announced plans for a science fiction film based on an 8-page treatment by Obst and Thorne. In March 2007, Jonathan Nolan was hired to write a screenplay. In 2009, Paramount required a new director for Interstellar because Spielberg moved his production studio DreamWorks from Paramount to Walt Disney Studios. So Jonathan Nolan recommended his brother Christopher Nolan, who joined in 2012.
Wait, quick question. Is Jonathan... I mean, my understanding is that Jonathan Nolan had historically been a screenwriter, but kind of only as an extension of Christopher Nolan. So is he his own...
No, that's incorrect, because so Memento was sort of everybody's big break because it was originally Jonathan Nolan's idea of a person that keeps forgetting their memory. But Jonathan Nolan has been a very successful person in the realm of TV. He's worked on shows like Person of Interest, and he co-created and show runs Westworld on HBO. And he co-wrote... he helped co-write a bunch of the Dark Knight movies. He obviously co-wrote this, so he's successful in his own right.
Well, the way that the brothers, or at least in the Memento episode, we talked about this, how they would just like send their drafts back and forth to each other like months apart. And I think, especially with like family drama, it'd be really hard to collaborate creatively. Like, imagine if you and Viraj had to make a 150-page screenplay together, and every week you needed to pick up all the pieces that, Viraj just doesn't know about like the first act or the second act break, or about like narrative structure. And don't you think that would like come between you at the dinner table?
I think you're being really demeaning towards Viraj, and I don't appreciate you speaking ill of my family members. But other than that, yeah, I probably would find it difficult. Although, I will say, they weren't collaborating on the drafts together. For Memento, Chris Nolan was writing the screenplay on his own, and Jonathan Nolan was writing a short story version of that story on his own. And they just, like, saw each other's stuff. But they weren't actually actively collaborating. On The Dark Knight... Chris Nolan and David Goyer came up with the story and then commissioned Jonathan Nolan to write the first initial draft. And then Christopher Nolan came in and did some rewrites on it. So it's not like working on it simultaneously.
Viraj Marathe will make an appearance on this show if and when we ever do Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Stay tuned.
And maybe we have some fun stuff announced or planned for that, but
maybe.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I don't know.
Big guests.
Huge.
All right, Trent, let me
get on with it.
Let me barrel through
Please.
this. So Christopher Nolan met with Kip Thorne, who was then attached as an executive producer, to discuss the use of space-time in the story. In March 2013, he was confirmed to be directing, and it would be produced under his label Syncope and Linda Obst Productions. The Hollywood Reporter reported that Nolan was going to earn a salary of $20 million with 20% of the total gross, so well done, Nolan. Warner Brothers gave Paramount rights to co-finance the next Friday the 13th film in exchange for a stake in Interstellar, and Legendary Pictures made a deal with Warner Brothers to finance about 25% of Interstellar in lieu of financing Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Good stuff.
The Dust Bowl phenomenon of the 1930s, as documented by Ken Burns in The Dust Bowl, which was made in 2012, was an inspiration for the blight that was portrayed in the movie. Nolan became interested in casting Matthew McConaughey after watching him in an early cut of the 2012 film Mud. Nolan filmed the movie on 35mm film in the Panavision anamorphic format and IMAX 70mm photography. Cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytma was hired in lieu of Wally Pfister, who had been Nolan's cinematographer since Memento, because he was making his directorial debut on Transcendence, which starred Johnny Depp.
Has Van Hoytma worked on everything since?
Yeah, he did Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Tenet. So more IMAX cameras were used for Interstellar than for any of Nolan's previous films, which makes this the narrative film with the most amount of IMAX footage.
Also, this would come up later in the fun facts section, but as of 2014, this was the longest IMAX film ever made.
So Van Hoytma retooled an IMAX camera to be handheld for shooting interior scenes, which was something that was a big technological improvement because Chris Nolan likes doing handheld. And you can't do that with IMAX cameras because they're big and heavy until you get Hoyt van Hoytma to do it.
Also, what a fucking awesome name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So the crew spent 2 weeks shooting in Iceland, where Nolan had previously filmed for Batman Begins. Composer Hans Zimmer, Nolan's longtime collaborator, returned, and in this scenario, instead of receiving a script, Nolan gave Zimmer a single-page document that told the story of a father leaving his child for work, and Zimmer started orchestrating a bunch of new stuff. They used an organ, and they decided to go against the sort of recording processes that they'd used in previous films. And Zimmer conducted 45 scoring sessions for Interstellar, which was 3 times more than he had ever recorded for Inception.
So, Parth, I saw a video of Jessica Chastain this morning talking about Christopher Nolan, and she said that all of the scripts that he sends to the actors come on, bright red paper, and I was wondering if you know why that is.
I have no idea why that is.
Do you just think...
It might be... Well, he's notoriously incredibly secretive, so there might be some aspect of that, because he doesn't really like to send scripts. He really likes to bring people into his house, and then they go into a room and read it, or something like that, or he'll go to their house and they'll read it. He doesn't really like to send it out. I know that, so maybe it's something related to that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
In that specific case, what that is. But that's, Trent, that's kind of a fun fact.
Yes.
That you just told
me.
Cool.
So, speaking of fun
facts.
Early in pre-production...
Scottie Pippen.
Because you just gave me an assist? Does that make me Michael Jordan?
Fuck.
Cool. All right. Early in pre-production, Dr. Kip Thorne laid 2 guidelines to strictly follow. Nothing would violate established physical laws, and that all the wild speculations would spring from science, and not from the creative mind of a screenwriter, writer, producer, or director, Christopher Nolan. Nolan accepted these terms as long as they did not get in the way of making the movie. That did not prevent clashes, though. At one point, Thorne spent 2 weeks talking Nolan out of an idea about traveling faster than light. Because apparently, can't do that. Did you take physics in high school, Parth? Did you have a firm grasp of all this black hole stuff that was going on?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at quantum physics.
Cool. No, just checking in. Me too. According to Dr. Kip Thorne, the largest degree of creative license in this movie were the clouds of the ice planet. As ice structures, these probably could not be that strong. The giant dust clouds were created on location using large fans to blow cellulose-based synthetic dust through the air. Anne Hathaway suffered from hypothermia while filming in Iceland due to the fact that her astronaut suit was open while filming scenes in the icy water. The wormhole was placed near Saturn as a reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey because Stanley Kubrick originally planned for part of that movie to take place at Saturn. Unfortunately, as visual effects technology wasn't able to make Saturn springs at that time, he changed it to Jupiter. And Parth, I'm sure as a person who's alive and gone to a year worth of film school, you can see... do you think this movie takes any influence from 2001: A Space Odyssey, or no?
I never thought about that, but now that you mention it, yeah, I can kind of see it.
Dr. Kip Thorne collaborated with the visual effects supervisor to create Black Hole. Thorne's work helped create new CGI software programs to create accurate computer simulations of these phenomena. Because I don't really think we know what a black hole looks like. So
no, but this is as of now the most accurate
representation.
Because normally in movies they do it as a flat thing you go through, and this movie
goes out of its way to explain that misconception.
Yeah,
which we'll get into.
And it kind of steals its explanation from a movie called Event Horizon.
In the trivia on IMDb, it said that the circle, or folding the paper and, poking the pencil through it, which is every, physics teacher's way to explain the wormhole, was stolen directly from Event Horizon. The majority of the shots of the robot TARS were not computer generated. Rather, TARS was a practical puppet controlled and voiced on set by Bill Irwin, who was then digitally erased from the movie. Irwin also puppeteered the robot Case, but in that instance had his voice dubbed over by another actor named Josh Stewart. Dr. Kip Thorne won a scientific bet against Stephen Hawking upon the astrophysics theory that underlies this movie. As a consequence, Hawking had to subscribe to Penthouse magazine for a year. This famous bet was depicted in the film The Theory of Everything. Final fun fact, the hypersleep chambers place the astronauts' bodies in a cold liquid. As seen after they wake up, when they are covered in blankets or thermal blankets, this is likely a practical reference to studies that have shown a state of hibernation can be achieved in the human body by causing hypothermia. This technology has been used to treat brain damage and has been proposed as a viable means of keeping people with severe injuries alive after accidents, while they are transported to medical facilities where they are treated by specialists. I know every space movie has a sort of hibernation pod, and I know that they're all just a chamber that, that shuts over you. But something about this one, not believable. But I mean, clearly there's some science to defend it. More so than the alien pods, where it's just like a bed with a slap of glass over it, and Parth, rather than me continuing talking, do you want to read these really lengthy 1-star reviews?
Yeah, Trent decided this wasn't a long enough episode, so he was like, hey, let's put a 1-star review with multiple paragraphs in it. So our first one is by Clay H. on January 3rd, 2019, and it has the title, Because I Love My Children, I'm Deleting This Movie.
Parth, I really think you're going to get a kick out of this, though. I really think it's going to be worth our time.
I'm gonna barrel through this. When I first watched Interstellar in the theater, I loved it because I'm a bit of a physics geek. I loved the dedication to getting the astrophysics right, and I was blind to the other messages being portrayed by the movie. Fast forward to sharing this with my children, and I have a very different perspective. Most of the movie is suspenseful and asks tough questions of survival, but the end scene portraying those who survived shows the result of an unspoken genocide. In the end scene, we see a space station populated by white people happily farming and playing baseball, and not one person of color represented. That there is not a single person of color present implies that only people who are white made it into the space station and everyone else was left behind on a doomed planet. Thus the unspoken genocide. I realize some people might say I'm being too sensitive because they see no problem, telling me, after all, it's just a movie and you don't have to make everything about race. With those people, I'd have a discussion of how movies are meant to spark specifics.
You got this.
With those people, I'd have a discussion of how movies are meant to spark scientific curiosity and inspire an adventurous spirit, yet only portray success for white people, leave those who are not white with a sense of being left out. People pick up on these subtle messages, even if only on a subconscious level, as the movie is saying, see this future, see the people in it, it's not for you. That is the horrible power of these messages. These messages are subtle and shout louder than words ever could. These messages are felt by children in places parents can't reach. I'm deleting this movie from my purchased videos because I can do better than showing my children these kinds of messages. This is really interesting for a few reasons. One is, sure, you can make a case that Christopher Nolan could do a better job trying to get some people of color in his movies, and that's a fair message. And it is true that, the images that you show in movies, they reverberate and they leave messages. I don't think they were talking about a happy white paradise where all non-white people were genocided.
No, I thought, wait, you only see very few scenes in the future, and the only people you see are essentially people who are related. It's like Matthew McConaughey's daughter, and then it's like her whole big white family is surrounded around because they're all related to Matthew McConaughey, a famous Caucasian. And then, like, there's not too much in the future place. Like, there's only so much opportunity to see a minority. Next one is by someone named JP. Why do people make
nice name?
Why do people make movie so complicated? Not movies, movie. Watch this movie by seeing the reviews and 5-star ratings. I usually watch movie to keep relaxed and keep myself away from stressful life for a couple hours. This movie disappointed me from that angle. It's a bit complicated and needs your full attention throughout the story. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but may fail to meet your expectations if you're looking to be simply entertained. Parth, I'm going to give you your birthday present early, and I'm going to read this last review because it's kind of long. Is that okay? Happy birthday. This last one is by Philip Allen, labeled What a Chore. One fact is glaringly apparent. The first hour and a half could easily have been squeezed into 15 to 20 minutes of screen time. Wow. This person needs to get into the editing business because it seems like they could really streamline a lot of projects.
Yeah, they should get a job with John Lee.
Oh, nice. Listen to our last episode. All of the most important concepts could have been stated within that time. 3 hours was not necessary at all. By the time the film hit the 2-hour mark, I was in physical pain sitting through this thing. The last hour is about the only thing halfway worth watching, kind of, sort of, maybe. I just don't understand how filmmakers like this manage to get money out of people to make turkeys like this. I suspect that by the time the producers finally understood what Nolan had done with their money, it was way too late to salvage anything. I mean, seriously, how much of a self-indulgent egotist must a movie maker be to crank out crap like this? What a sentence. Final paragraph. There is one ruler by which... this is really the fucking kicker. There is one ruler by which I measure any film. Before delving into a deeper analysis, is it boring? Does it commit the unforgivable crime of being boring? This does not mean that the film can be interesting for half its running time and excuse its other half from being boring. No, none of it can be boring. This is because every second of running time is important. Every second counts, and just 60 seconds of boredom can translate into an eternity of suffering for the audience. Because film time does not run the same as real time, it runs on its own, quote, clock. Therefore, every single second of screen time must be interesting in some profound, important way. Every single second. And filmmakers who fail to understand or respect the odd fact of film will fail eventually. They might get away with a film or two of being a boring time waster, but eventually the public will catch on. I only hope this happens to Nolan. He's been turning out boring films for some time now, and one day the public will wake up to this fact. Parth, any thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah, no, imagine every second needing to be interesting and profound and important.
I don't even know where to...
Yeah, where to begin?
I mean, the movies he churned out before this were... Just before this were, in order, The Dark Knight Rises, Inception, The Dark Knight. And so, like, what boring movies is he talking about that he's churning out? What is he talking about, like... Every single second needs to be important because movies run on their own clock. What does that even mean?
Parth, I think that you're just a sheep, and one day, the public is gonna wake up.
You bring up a good point.
Let's move on to our next section, the main section, the part of the podcast 42 minutes in where we start to talk about the film.
It has to mean something.
Love has meaning, yes. Social utility, social bonding, child rearing.
We love people who have died. Where's the social utility in that?
None.
Maybe it means something more, something we can't yet understand. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive. I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen in a decade, who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
Yeah. And Parth, it kind of sounded like a Yoshi sound effect. And if you know who
Yoshi.
Yeah, I'll add in. I mean, that one was much better, but I'll add in a Yoshi sound effect for reference. Let me ask you, what's working?
Most of it. I think this is one of my more favored Nolan movies, and I love my Nolan.
Yeah, if you listen to our Sweet 16 director draft extravaganza, you'll hear Parth defend Christopher Nolan
to my dying breath.
Yes.
Or to his dying breath, I guess. But
whichever of you dies first.
No, I think that this movie really proved a lot of people wrong about Nolan. A lot of people saw Nolan as somebody incapable of telling stories of human emotion. They saw him as somebody that only does these cold, labyrinth-like plots. And I disagreed with that even before Interstellar came out. I think the Dark Knight trilogy is a great human story. I think Memento, for all of its labyrinthness, is a great human story. I think The Prestige is really, really great at telling a story of two characters. But Interstellar is his most obviously emotional, soap opera-like dramatic movie. And it's the one that's most obviously about family. I know Nolan has 4 kids. I know he has a daughter, so I'm sure to some extent this was much more personal for him. As we found out from John Lee, the original script was about a man leaving his son, when Christopher Nolan came on, he changed the story so that it was a man leaving his daughter. So I'm sure this, for Nolan himself, is also more personal, and I think you can feel that.
Yeah. Parth, can I say something controversial to stimulate some conversation?
Are you going to say that you don't care about the second son?
Oh, you mean Timothée Chalamet?
Or like the only other son, but yeah.
We'll get to that later, but what I was going to say is that this is the second best Nolan movie, behind The Dark Knight.
That is I can respect that.
Because I group this in conceptually with Inception, and I like this way more than I like Inception. And I like this more than Tenet, and I like this more than Dunkirk.
Interesting.
I mean, do you disagree?
I think it's difficult to sort of rank his movies for the reason that a lot of people like to think that his movies are exactly the same, and I would argue they're very same in tone, but they're pretty different in terms of what story they're telling. They're never really the same thing, which is part of why I really love him, or his movies.
This movie caught me by surprise because if you listen to our Tenet episode or our Memento episode, damn, we really get around. But I made complaints about both of those with the characters and the dialogue, and that there wasn't much like human connection going on. And there's so much theme happening here, and even Trent's icy cold heart was defrosted by all this family stuff.
Yeah, I was shocked to hear how much you like this movie, because I mean, every single time we mentioned that you were going to have to watch this movie, you would ask me, am I going to like it? And I was like, I think you'll like it, but I think you're going to think it's boring. I think you're going to think it's too long.
And speaking of that, I said off mic, whenever a movie is over 2 hours and 15 minutes long, our first complaint is this movie should be 15 minutes shorter, and this movie is almost 3 hours long, and it kind of earns the runtime.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't want to get into what's not working too early or anything. I think it does have a little bit of a pacing problem about 2/3 of the way in. I think once you get to Dr. Mann, it sort of reaches a point where it's stagnating a little bit, but I think it more than makes up for it with the preceding 2 hours and the succeeding hour. I think it's...
See, the only time in the film I was worried about pacing, I would say would be in the first act.
Really? The first act is one of my favorite first acts, because I think it has one of the more interesting depictions of the future that I've seen.
I think that, watching the first act for the first time, I was like, they're talking about ghosts, they're talking about aliens, like, we're 40 minutes in, we're not even in space yet, and I was like, there's so many directions that they could take this movie, and it could end up being stupid, because I'm like, they're open, there's either going to be a lot of loose ends, or they're going to try to arbitrarily tie this all together, and it's not going to work. And the reason...
Trent was proven wrong.
And damn, they took all that ghost shit from the first act, and they, involved it in the third act? That's Hollywood, baby. That's called paying off the audience.
Yeah.
It makes us feel like you like us, like you want us to be in on the joke.
People criticize the movie because they say that people don't like the third act of this movie. And I'm kind of always shocked by that.
What's their argument? On paper, the further in space you are and the more survival conflict there would be, the more entertaining. And that the third act is where most of that's happening.
Well, they don't like the black hole stuff. They think... And that's... I don't know. I feel like that's the movie to me.
Yeah, I agree that that's the movie. The black hole stuff does go off the deep end a little bit, and I think if you've come this far, now is not a time to start fact-checking. But suspend your disbelief and have a good time, people.
Okay, here's one of the reasons that I love the movie so much. I love when art can push science and things like that forward. Like a movie like Jurassic Park pushed archaeology, and it pushed paleontology. It pushed all of that. Scientists had to work with computer artists, had to work with model makers, and all these sorts of prosthetic people or whatever to how do we recreate a dinosaur. And this movie, because it's sort of based out of scientific discovery, is the same thing. I think it's amazing that this movie was able to, Kip Thorne was a physicist and was like, okay, I'm going to use this $165 million budget. I'm going to take your big fancy Hollywood computers, plug in my theoretical equations in, see what pops up. Oh, I guess that's what a black hole looks like. And then that creates 2 scientific papers. You know what I mean? So I think it's amazing when a movie can do that. And I think that this movie, which I think as much as I would be interested in seeing Spielberg's version of this movie, I can kind of see what it would be, and it'd be more schmaltzy, and I think it would also be less scientifically accurate.
I was going to use the word cheese ball. As much as I love Steven Spielberg, I think we would get a lot more, I think this movie's plenty heartfelt, and the Spielberg version is way more heartfelt. Too much so.
Yeah. And I think part of what's interesting about this movie is it's such a different depiction of space travel than what you normally see, because there's really, in movies, the language of space travel is based down to 2 things. You've got your hyper accurate stuff that's like Apollo 13, and it's actually about real space travel.
Yeah.
Or you've got your Star Treks or your Star Wars or whatever, where it looks, it looks good. It's a Hollywood movie, but it's clearly inaccurate. It's clearly not making sense. There's sound in space or whatever. And this is one of the first movies where it's taking these incredibly high concept, absolutely ridiculous ideas like interstellar travel, like, going into a black hole, all of these things that if done by another director would be done in a much more maximalist, I can see the Michael Bay version of this, and it's not great, This, with Nolan's sort of insistence on everything looking real, on everything feeling real, there were 0 green screens used in this movie. There's a few scenes where there's many computer-generated effects, but everything inside of the spacecraft is all, when they're shooting inside the spacecraft, that's what the actors were seeing, because he was outside of the spacecraft projecting, stuff that they'd made in CG for outside space.
For the actors to interact with.
Yeah, and I think all of that creates a completely different experience. I think it makes everything feel much more grounded, much more realistic, and I don't know, it's just a completely different experience than anything, I think, than most other movies will ever give you.
I mean, a personal flaw of mine is that, the reason I haven't watched Lord of the Rings, or I have trouble getting into fantasy, is because I have a hard time signing up emotionally to be invested in things that don't take place on Earth. And this movie taking place in a future, climate-ridden, apocalyptic version, but it's not like everyone's, eating each other. It's, the perfect amount of grim. But also it's, grim in the way that's, I could see us living under similar circumstances in the next 50 to 60 years. And as hard of a pill as that is to swallow, it makes it so poignant, because something like this maybe forgetting the black holes, but people are clearly trying to colonize other planets, and this could be a
feasible future.
This could be a feasible future, and that makes me mean more to me now, because watching Inception, I'm like, cool, but like this isn't gonna apply to me at any point.
I don't personally watch movies like that, but I can definitely understand how this is more appealing to you if you do.
Something about, because I think in the way that switching gears really quick, in the way that I made a complaint about like Tenet or Inception not explaining the rules, and oftentimes intentionally so, I think this movie goes out of its way to explain like the basic mechanics, and even if it doesn't like actually make sense, like in the moment it's really it's like really cinematic, and at least for what's happening on screen, it gives you a base understanding.
It's like we've forgotten who we are, Tom. Explorers, pioneers, not caretakers.
When I was a kid, it felt like they made something new every day. Some gadget or idea. Like every day was Christmas. But 6 billion people. Just try to imagine that. And every last one of them trying to have it all.
I think you've got to rewatch Inception, because I know you haven't rewatched that movie in a long time. But I agree. I mean, I think the movie goes a little bit too far on the explaining sometimes. I think like towards the end, there's a lot of characters explaining exactly what's happening, and I think sometimes you don't really need that. But I don't know. I don't fucking care. What movie shows the stuff that this movie does? You know, in the way that this movie does.
Oh, wait.
As interestingly.
Wait, Parth, you don't want to talk about the space CGI, do you?
I would love to talk about the space CGI.
Oh, wait. And should we mention how fucking dope it is, or no?
Yeah, that'd be a cool thing to bring up.
So, I think all of the space CGI is awesome, and I have one exception. It's that, especially on the water planet. And after that, because they're in the ship for a lot of the film, and they're showing, whenever they show the ship like interacting with like the water, like they show a lot of angles of just like the windows of the ship going through all these different elements, and they don't have, and I know it's because they're using like models or miniatures, and I think that they look great. But they very rarely show like a wide shot of the ship, and I know that that's what you'd come to expect. But like, you could make a super cut of 10 minutes of this movie of it just like the windows of the front of the ship being hit by waves.
Is that the complaint?
That's the full complaint. Yes.
Okay. Well, I get what you're saying, but I would argue this: people like to say that Chris Nolan sometimes is kind of just like a functional director. He's not like doing crazy things with the camera. And I think over the course of his career, I would argue that that's one of his biggest assets, is that he's someone that's very, very disciplined. He has very specific rules of what he's going to do and what he's not going to do. He's not going to do crazy long takes. He's going to shoot with a lot of coverage, as we learned from Stephen Tobolowsky. He's going to make sure that he has all the angles he needs to get it in the edit. And the other thing he's not going to do is when he's working with CG elements, he's never going to do something a camera can't do. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, when they go into space, just look at like J.J. Abrams, Star Trek movies, or Force Awakens, or even Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi. The camera a lot of the times is doing these moves that a camera physically cannot do. Whereas Nolan, when he does that, I think he's kind of acutely aware of the fact that we have come to understand, like, okay, and this is the computer part of the movie, where this is a fake camera. Even if we're not literally thinking that, we can kind of tell, like, yeah, I know that's not real. It looks good, but it's not real. And I think he, by not giving us those wide shots, by not giving us some, like, crazy, whatever, by keeping the camera still and keeping the camera on, on the ship, it keeps you grounded, and it keeps it looking good. And I think a defensive Nolan on the whole.
Cooper, what are you doing?
Docking.
Endurance rotation is 67, 68 RPM.
Okay, get ready to match our spin with the retro thrusters.
It's not possible.
No, it's necessary.
I think Marvel has kind of ruined the way people look at how movies should be made, I think, of this like level, because I think people are like, well, it wasn't funny. There wasn't comedy. And I think this movie is plenty funny. There's plenty of stuff that's like pretty funny in it. But nobody looks at Tarzan and is like, haha, look at this guy. There's no like Joss Whedon-ish wink to the camera type humor. And, Joss Whedon is a dirtbag. But that humor has its place. It's fun. I like The Avengers too. But it's also fun to see something that plays something completely straight.
Oh, you like The Avengers 2, Age of Ultron? That's interesting. Gotcha.
I also like Avengers 2. But here's the main reason why I love the movie is I think it has this undertone of a spirit of like pushing forward and discovery. And I think Nolan, if you look at his movies, he's always looking to see the best in people. Fucked up as The Dark Knight can be, part of its pivotal part of its ending is people choosing not to blow each other up, even when they're given all the incentive to do so. In this movie, you see that, it's what you said. It's a good amount of sort of sentimentalism with, cynicism, where the future has been fucked up. We have completely run the planet dry. But despite that, we are able to progress past our own issues and go out into space and discover these things and rebuild as a society. And people kind of don't like the ending because they think it wraps things up too neatly at the end. And I would argue if that is the movie, the movie is about how we can do that. That is a possibility, that humanity is not doomed.
I feel like a lot of the dialogue scenes, like even when they weren't, like in a way that shouldn't be subtle, in a very nuanced way, they found a way, to casually discuss like the themes of like survival, time, love, and like what it means to be human during every conversation. And it shouldn't work, but when Matt Damon is like monologuing about like why we didn't send robots off for space exploration is because they don't have what humans' best quality is. Well, it was the ability to improvise based off their will to live. And that robots could never have that, and that's what makes humans so powerful. And also Anne Hathaway's thing about, like, if love has guided me through time and space, then it is as powerful as gravity or time. And I don't know, in a cheesy, emotional, I've had a long week kind of way, I like really needed that.
Yeah, and again, it's weird to me that this is what people don't like about the movie. Because I think all the stuff that I have issues with the movie are sort of plot mechanic type things. Like, I think there's a little bit too much explanation. I think certain things could have been condensed a little bit. But I really don't have a problem with the sort of unabashed emotionalness of the movie. The whole scene of, everybody kind of mentions the seeing the messages through the years scene.
I was just gonna bring this up. Like, as someone who hasn't seen the movie, when they showed like Matthew McConaughey being nominated for Best Actor, that's the clip they show.
Yeah.
Oh, both because the lighting is beautiful and his face is very
emotive.
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, there's maybe a few too many scenes of people crying, but I don't give a fuck. It's really heart-wrenching. At the end when he's in the black hole and he's seeing through this, 3-dimensional construct or 4-dimensional construct where he can see time in a 3-dimensional construct. Like, that's when he's like begging his daughter to stay. Mm-hmm. that's fucking heart like that gets me. I don't care about the fact that it creates a time loop and it doesn't 100% make sense and he's in a black hole, because I think the movie has sort of built up enough credibility to where you go, I don't know, maybe this could happen.
Okay, so I'm with you, but my only beef comes in that scene where he's knocking the books down and, trying to articulate in Morse code to stay, because he knows, by this point he knows, like, oh, I was the one who did that before, and it clearly didn't cause me to stay. So what is the point in me doing it now?
The thing is, I don't think he's remembering it. Because he didn't see, like, when the books fall out, he doesn't see that. His daughter sees that.
Yeah, but his daughter said, there was an additional message. It spelt out the word stay, and I'm telling you this, and you don't believe me. And then he sees his daughter, and he starts spelling a word, and he doesn't make the connection of, I see how this story ends, I finish the word, and then I ignore her. Because I understand he needs to make it happen in the future because he already made it happen in the past.
I get it. I don't know. I think it works as a moment.
I was willing to look past it because it worked as a moment. And because I thought in the first act, what's all this ghost mumbo jumbo? And then they made it worth our while.
The only thing I don't really get is how Jessica Chastain as an adult figured it out that he was her ghost.
That scene
because it doesn't
is cross-cutting at such a rate that I think is meant to keep you from
understanding that it doesn't really make much sense.
Yes, because Jessica Chastain is just like standing in her childhood bedroom and she figures everything out at once.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think is like, there was no way for her to, like, there was nothing you could do to make that make a little bit more sense. But again,
I'm afraid we've transitioned inadvertently into the not working category.
Yeah.
And I guess while we're here, I'll say a big plot point in the second half is like, if only we could get inside a black hole and then like go through the horizon, whatever that is, then we can just like take a picture, send it to Earth.
Well, we would have the information that we would need to send to Earth to get the second half of the gravity equation that they need.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, but it's they send the robot inside the black hole. They're like, yeah, just look around, see what it's all about, and then that'll just solve all of our problems instantly, and it kind of does.
Well, I mean, they've set it up that they couldn't get that information because someone would need to go into a black hole, and they're not prepared to do that. So I think it's fine because they've set it up to be that way. Mm-hmm. The only piece of like explanation that I think that like we really didn't need was when they're in the black hole and they're talking about it's love, Tars, love. I could do this because of love. Mm-hmm. And it's like he doesn't need to say, I get it. I don't need the monologue. But again, it's well acted, so it's okay. The only thing that I think
they said Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey had a nice joke of I'll tell the truth 90% of the time thing. And they had a nice repartee with the robot, too, about this. And I've watched enough movies at the point where in the beginning, when they say that, I knew, okay, down the line, there's going to be a pivotal moment, and he's going to make a joke about how this is the remaining 10%. And the last Anne Hathaway movie...
But it got me.
Yeah, no, it gets me. But the last Anne Hathaway movie we did was Locked Down. I love Anne Hathaway, by the way. And do you remember how...
I thought you were going to say you loved Locked Down.
No.
And I was so shocked.
But do you remember how in Locked Down, both the characters kept talking about, like, the moment, and they just, like, brought it up, like, one too many times?
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie does that, with the 90% thing. And I know we're getting trivial, especially because we recently did away with the nitpick section, and now we just get our nitpicks out of the way in the not working section.
Ranger 2, prepare to detach.
What? No! Cooper!
3.
Cooper, what are you doing?
Newton's third law. You gotta leave something behind.
You told me we had enough resources for both of us.
We agreed, Amelia. 90%. Detach.
The only one big structural thing I think this movie doesn't really need is the second sibling. I don't know if that's a remnant of the original Jonathan Nolan draft or what.
I'm glad you bring this up.
Go ahead, please.
I think it can be represented in him saying goodbye to both of his children when he's leaving space for an indefinite period of time. And he goes up to his daughter's room and he's like, hey, I love you so much. Here's a watch to remember me by. Here's like a valuable explanation, probably a metaphor about how I'm here for you. And then he goes out to his son, also his child, and he's like, hey, champ, watch the farm. Oh, P.S.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, P.S. You can borrow my truck. Aha. See ya.
It's yours.
And I know that, like, there's some convenience in getting, like, getting Murph. Oh, also, they say the word Murph 1,000 fucking times in this movie. And,
yes.
Good for them, but people don't say each other's names that often when they're talking to each other.
I don't know, again, I feel like this might just be like a remnant of there was a son, but then I don't know why they wouldn't just change it to a daughter and like leave out a second. I don't know why you would keep the son and then add a daughter. Why not just change the gender? It doesn't make sense to me, so I'm assuming that's not the reason. I think Nolan, again, with The Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar are a little bit overwritten in that there's a few too many plot mechanics going on, and I think that's one of them. So I think maybe he was in his overwriting phase, but it's kind of weird because the story is all about getting back to Murph and getting back to his daughter, and he goes back. The one of the pivotal moments at the ending is him seeing his daughter, who is now older than he is, and he doesn't give a fuck about his son. He doesn't even ask about him.
Yeah, the son's definitely dead.
I don't know why you can't just do away with the character, because other than at the end, she comes to her childhood home and burns the farm.
Which,
other than that,
I thought that was her saying, all right, if you won't leave the farm to save your kid's lungs, then I'm going to burn it down so you have nothing that you can do here.
Yeah.
But then it kind of isn't that, because then he comes back and he like should be all angry, and then she's just like, "Don't worry, Dad is a ghost, and he's still alive." And then cuts away.
I think part of what it is that she burns the farm as because he tells her to leave the house.
Yeah, it was as a distraction.
So it's used as a distraction so that he goes there to deal with it, so that she can go back to the house because she thinks that something might have been left there.
Yeah,
and so the whole thing. I mean, he doesn't hug her back, but again, it's a weird thing. You didn't need the farm burning down scene. It wasn't really pivotal to anything because it ends up being fine. It doesn't affect anything later on. So you really could have removed the son. I don't know if you've seen the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds.
I have. Are you talking about
it's exactly the same situation?
How that movie has 2 kids and the daughter's the important one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which again, I have no issue with that. Just take out the other kid. It's like why is this other kid there if they're not the important one? It sounds like a weird feeling.
But they're not off to the side enough. It's like
no,
they're oddly in the middle. Where all right, I have 2 more things, and then we can get out of here. All right,
get to our gauntlet and get out.
Yeah. The first thing is, I guess something I want to compliment is the first act break and the second act break, which I guess would kind of sort of be when you find out that the Michael Caine's character was lying about Plan A, which is probably more around the halfway point. And then the 2/3 break would be when I guess you find out that Matt Damon is trying to betray them. And
right.
I like both of those things, and both of them, like, rarely when I'm watching a movie these days do I, like, rise out of my seat a little bit. I'm like, oh, shit, they're doing something here. And I did it twice during this movie. But I don't know, like, I understand Matt Damon, he's like, yeah, I haven't seen another human face in a really long time, and you won't believe the things that will make you, like, it was his whole reason for going the survival instinct spiel. But why does he try to kill McConaughey, because he wants to go home too, and that's what Matt Damon wants.
Well, he doesn't want them to go exploring the other planets.
Because does Matt Damon just want to go home?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is that he has been out there for so long, and he lost complete hope. He completely lost hope. So his survival instinct kicks in, and he's like, I don't give a fuck. We're all doomed anyway. We can't live on these planets, so I just want to travel home. So he kills him, or he sets him up to die because he thinks that's his way back. So he's like so desperate that he's willing to do anything. So I think that's the reason why he does that. Again, like, it's not like a malicious, I mean, obviously he's trying to kill him, but like, it's not a malicious intent necessarily.
It's like so like oddly, horrifically beautiful when he's like,
yeah.
I thought I could watch you die. But I just listen to my voice. Like, I'm supporting you through this, but it's too horrible. He clearly had no malice against him, but he was like, it's me against you, and I chose me.
You're feeling it, aren't you? The survival instinct. That's what drove me. It's what drives all of us. And it's what's gonna save us. Because I'm gonna save all of us. For you, Cooper. I'm sorry, I can't watch you go through this. I'm sorry. I thought I could, but I can't. I'm here. I'm here for you. Just listen to my voice, Cooper. I'm right here.
Again, which is another thing I like, is that it's like, oh yeah, everybody in the movie is really trying to do the right thing and get and it's like, no, Matt Damon's, he's willing to kill people. His name is Dr. Man. He's supposed to represent humanity. That's not very subtle. And it's like, oh no, some of humanity is willing to eat each other apart to stay alive. But that doesn't mean that you should give up,
Wait, I have one more... Well, okay, I have one more good thing and one more bad thing. The good thing is that in this film, they're like, all right, we got to go to X amount of planets. And I think this film does what the early Star Wars films do really well in making each planet, like, completely unique.
Distinctive.
For one distinct reason. Even if it's like, you have a water planet, and then you have a snowy planet, and then you have a rock planet. And then, in Star Wars, you have a desert planet and a snow planet and a tree planet or whatever. But just in terms of, like, understanding or, like, feeling, like, immersed or, like, some atmosphere, I don't know, just it really helps with the world building.
Yeah, definitely.
And the bad thing, not even bad, but as deep as the bench of this movie is, because basically everyone on screen is a household name, and it's, like, crazy. Topher Grace takes me straight out of this movie.
I like Topher Grace. I feel like people don't.
I like Topher Grace too. In BlacKkKlansman, he's great, but his mustache is hiding his Topher Graceness.
All right, fair enough.
So
is it time?
It will be in a second. Does the end of this movie, is that him going for Anne Hathaway?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's supposed to be him going for Anne Hathaway and him just in general exploring. Because that's who he was meant to be, kind of thing.
You want to move on to the ratings gauntlet?
Yeah, Trent, how about you go first? I mean, mine's more... Or should I go first because I'm more predictable?
You go first.
Okay. In terms of rewatchability, I watched this movie, it's not like a Batman movie. It's a little bit more... You have to be really ready to watch this movie, I think. But I rewatch it a relatively... normal amount, I guess. So yes, and I would definitely recommend the movie. Out of 10, 8 seems too low for me.
Right.
But 9 seems... Is 9 right?
You tell me.
Fuck it. 9. 9 out of 10.
Good for you. Well, yes, I'd recommend it, because now it's my second favorite Christopher Nolan movie. The only one above it being The Dark Knight, which is, pretty close to perfect. Will I rewatch it? Here's the funny thing. Like, not anytime soon. I think that...
But do you see yourself at some point being, like...
Yes.
Do you see yourself rewatching it at some point?
Yes, in the way that if you watch Inception the first time, you're like, okay, I'll probably get more out of this the second time. Like, rarely do I find... Well, I guess I can sum it up in this way. Last night, I started watching the movie after midnight. And since it's a 3-hour-long movie, I had every intention of watching half of it and going to bed.
We actually made a plan. We were going to record this later because... And then I pushed the schedule up and I said, watch the half of the movie tonight and half of the movie tomorrow morning, and we'll record in the afternoon.
Yes, and the fact that I was so gripped by the story that I pried my eyes open until 3:30 a.m. just because I really was fucking on board. And I was like, I don't want to wait to find out how it ends. Like, you've got my fucking attention, and I feel like this is meant to be done in one sitting. I wish I saw it on a big-ass movie screen, but my laptop will have to do for now.
Yeah, you can come over one day.
And just for interesting sake, I was going to give it a 9, but after you gave it a 9, I'll give it an 8.5 just for diversity.
What? Give it an 8.7. 8.7.
Wow, okay.
It's closer to 9.
I think I'm just going to give it a 9 because I think Dark Knight is a 10 out of 10, and this is a little bit less than that. Okay. What's
all right, well, I mean, I guess...
Wait.
We've settled our Interstellar
discussion. It's our third Nolan movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty good at this.
What
comes next?
It'd be interesting if we ever did anything, another Nolan movie.
I know, it would be a shame if we were to cover a Nolan movie that may have been mentioned recently. That would just be disappointing for me.
Well, that's enough of that. I mean,
what do you think is going to happen next week?
Next week, we have our interview, our big interview with Evan Morgan, writer and director of The Kid Detective, our first director. It is a behemoth of an episode. It's an hour and 15 minutes long, something like that.
Yeah, it's monstrous.
Our intro and outro is very quick. The interview is a long interview. We go into a lot of the movie, how he got it made, when he made it, how he made it, what it feels like, to have it been made, the whole shebang.
And you know what they say, like, directors are pretty essential to making movies, and
I'd say so.
He was pretty involved in the production of the film, and so he kind of had a lot to say about it.
Yeah,
and it was the first time we had a director on the show, so we kind of found out a lot of cool new information.
But yeah, so you can check that out next week. The week after that, we're gonna have our discussion up, and then we'll have one more movie, and then maybe we'll have an interesting little mini series of things to come.
I would say an interesting little mini series of things to come is a good way to put it.
Should we announce what's coming after Kid Detective, or should we wait till Kid Detective? Let's wait till Kid Detective. We'll keep you in suspense, keep you on your toes.
I'm just gonna say it because no one's come this far, and if you have, thanks. But we'll say it, and then we'll just
be sly about it. Be sly about it.
As in, I should give like clues.
Yeah, give a clue, or give like something it rhymes with.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I can't really remember the interview or the discussion because it's all just such a blur. See what I did there? Yeah.
Let's get one more. Dogs have fur. There you go.
That's interesting. And if you have a dog, it's really fun to have a pet. That I can ensure.
Sometimes, when I go outside in the wintertime, I shiver and say, "Burr."
Sometimes you should get a coat made of fur, which I guess you already did. But
sometimes Alexander Hamilton is shot down in a duel against Vice President Aaron Burr.
Oh wow, that's interesting that you mentioned that.
On
right.
that
note,
it's her, guys. It's Spike Jonze is her.
No, cut that. You can't. No.